All right, everybody, welcome to NorCal Sports Network. And this is the same hat that Brock Purdy's dad wears. Chat loves it when Marty Lurie comes on.
Anytime you lose a game this time of year, when you can't go backwards, it's a problem.
All right, everybody, welcome on in. NorCal Sports Network. The Chicago Cubs have just landed superstar Kyle Tucker from the Houston Astros. And wow, the Cubbies pull off the deal, and you got to love it for the Cubs. Welcome on in, guys. Come on in as we get this thing going. Sorry for the just dropped my phone there. Sorry for the not so great thumbnail. Best we could do to put this out there. Breaking news. We had to go to the B team on our thumbnail, but we'll get that thumbnail replaced when the A team was not available. So we just threw something together. Kyle Tucker is now a Cub. The deal is official. It is Isaac Paredes. Let me see what else we've got here. Hold on this deal. Couple of deals going down today. Yeah, Yankees acquired Devin Williams from the Brewers. Let me pull this deal up, guys, as I look at this. 1 second. I got to pull up John Heyman. I think it was a 3-for-1 deal. Yep, it's Tucker to the Cubs for Paredes, Wisniewski, and Cam Smith. All pending medicals, of course, but not wow. San Francisco Giants, I think, could have offered a better package of younger players. Could have thrown in a Casey Schmidt, who would be a great third baseman, because I think Bregman is going to be leaving the Astros. I think he could land with the Yankees. And, man, the Cubs could have gotten, or I should say the Astros could have gotten, who could they gotten from the Giants? You could have got Kyle Harrison, a young potential star pitcher, lefty. Casey Schmidt, a Gold Glove third baseman, and he's got a solid bat, just needs playing time. And I think they could have probably given up something like a Luciano or something like that. So I just not so sure this is the best move for the Astros, the best haul. So I think this would have been, Mark Graves is just one major league player in this deal. I think the Astros could have received 3 major league players: Harrison, Luciano, and Schmidt. And I think this would have been a better deal for the Astros, and the Giants could have acquired Kyle Tucker. I don't know if the Giants were even in on this deal, even made a link. Oh, come on, Los. I sent you the link. Let me give it again. Hold on here. He says, no link. Maybe I left it out. Hold on. Probably my fault. 1 sec. All right. Los will be joining it here shortly. I don't know, guys. These deals that now you just made the Cubs a stronger team. One more team to overcome. Cubs and Reds now become the favorites, I believe, in the National League Central. Cardinals are down. Brewers look like they're packing it in. They've let Willie Adames go, and now they've let Devin Williams, their closer, he was traded today. They do pick up Nestor Cortez in some minor leaguer. But I think the Cubs can maybe sign Tucker. They've got the money. Yeah, hit that like, everybody. That would be great. Anyway, guys, I forgot to mention this show is sponsored by Chapman Law Group. Chapman Law Group in Marin. Give them a call if you need any legal needs. Chapman Law Group, located in Marin, 415-613-9483. Give them a call if you have any needs. Thanks. All right. And give this a like and subscribe if you would. Really do appreciate that as we do an emergency kind of live. There's a lot going on right now. Baseball, Corbin Burnes, that video I did earlier today should be heading out very soon. And check out the Corbin Burnes video to the Giants. Will it happen? Some major moves going today. Devin Williams, an all-star closer for the Milwaukee Brewers, is a New York Yankee. They've added Max Fried. They may still add Pete Alonso. They're in talks for Cody Bellinger. I think Bellinger's likely to go to the Yankees now that Kyle Tucker is off the board and is moved to the Cubs. So Bellinger is as good as gone. Where does he land? I think it's the New York Yankees. I think the Yankees would have liked to have had Kyle Tucker, but, you know, the Yankees are improving their team. Everybody's improving. The Mets have improved. The Cubs have improved now. They've added Kyle Tucker. Is Casey Schmidt a possibility to go to the Chicago Cubs in a deal? Do the Giants have anything? Maybe Bellinger? How about Bellinger to the Cubs? I mean, Bellinger from the Cubs to the Giants for Casey Schmidt and another youngster. Would that be a possibility? Cubs now need a third baseman. They gave up Isaac Paredes. I think Schmidt, Cubs won off a salary. They just picked up Kyle Tucker. They need a third baseman. Do they have something they can give Schmidt for Bellinger? And look, guys, I love Casey Schmidt. I'd love to have him on the Giants, but he's blocked. Where's he going to play? The Giants have already locked up Matt Chapman for 6 years. They have given Tyler Fitzgerald the second base job. There's no starting position for Casey Schmidt unless there's an injury to Chapman. Giants may be wanting to keep Casey because he's very valuable position. Patrick Wisdom is a free agent, Mark. Giants could pick him up to play first base, actually. Wisdom does play some first base. He's got some pop. But again, you're dealing with that high K rate. Michi, no, I've watched Casey play. You probably haven't watched him play in the minor leagues. I'm telling you, this guy is a gold glove. He can hit if given the opportunity. Michi, you try going and getting inconsistent at bats and see how you do. Nobody can go up there and play once a week, have your timing completely thrown off. When Casey Schmidt plays, if I showed you his stats just in, oh, you know what? I forgot to change the background here. Let me change the background since we are talking. There we go, Wrigley Field. Since we're talking Cubs here, we got Cubbies. Hold on here. Let me see what's going on. My sent file. Oh, all right. Los didn't get my link. I don't know what's Los, your email. Something's wrong with your email. Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me see if I can do this. 1 second. 1 second. Let me do this here. All right. There we go. Los's email is back in the what was that? The Pony Express. Okay. Yeah, so we've got the news again, breaking news. Kyle Tucker is a Chicago Cub. What is Michi saying here? Yeah, he needs a chance. You'll see if he gets a chance. I can almost look if I pulled up his stats, you would be. Let me bring in Los.
Pony Express. That is hilarious.
Pony Express, man, it's on its way somewhere.
Just a personal email from now on, like I don't know, Outlook, my work email. I just sometimes it comes through and sometimes it doesn't. So my fault. Apologize.
No worries, no worries. We got Michi dogging on our guy Casey Schmidt. He's never seen Casey actually play other than at the minors. You watch him, I mean, in the majors. If you look at Casey Schmidt's numbers, we're talking about Casey Schmidt could be a potential guy to go to the Cubs now that they've given up Isaac Paredes, their third baseman. The Cubs have no third baseman. Look at Casey's numbers. If you look at just his batting average through the 4 minor league seasons, he's hit 280. He's hit 219 in the majors with only 360 at bats, but it was 206 with 253 at bats his first year. His last year he hit 252. So he is showing improvement. He actually hit in a limited bats. He actually had a better batting average than Matt Chapman, better batting average than many of the players on the Giants, had a lower strikeout rate than half the team, even though, sometimes he looks foolish and he chases pitches like any player.
Yeah, even veterans chase bad pitches.
Yeah.
Wow.
21% strikeout rate. Kyle Tucker, Joe Boyd says, is going to leave the Cubs in free agency, not worth the rental. How do you know that? They didn't give up a ton. What if the Cubs make it to the playoffs and end up getting all the way to the World Series?
Yeah. Well, that didn't work for Juan Soto. Going to the World Series and having all that limelight didn't keep him there, but everybody's different. And, this is an instant gratification society right now that we live in, unfortunately. So if Casey's not hitting 325 at every minor league level that he's at, then he's considered a bust. He's like you said, baseball's the hardest game, and hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do, possibly in professional sports. And all you can ask for is progress. He's made it. The Giants they're just, let's call it what it is. They're just not a patient organization. They're not. They would rather have a bunch of veterans. They would rather have their team constructed by, free agents and vets from other teams and maybe a trade here and there than waiting for their young players to pan out, because they have to win right now. They can't stick young guys in there, even though Heliot Ramos proved that you could trust a young guy and he could figure it out at some point. I guess that wasn't enough for him. So here we are.
Yeah, they haven't given any of the young guys a chance. They did not give Matos a full chance. They let Joey Bart walk. Look, the impatience of the Giants has been, Farhan Zaidi set this organization back way, way back. Now Buster Posey's left to try and clean it up. And it's an absolute mess. It's something that they have to learn to either. We've said it over and over again. I think we should have probably trademarked the phrase "pick a lane." Okay, pick a dang lane. In fact, I was listening to MLB radio the other day, and who did I hear? But the former GM of the New York Mets. I'm just drawing a blank. I hate it when I'm on the air and I can't remember. Steve Phillips. Okay. I heard Steve Phillips, or it might have been Jim Duquette. One of them said, they were talking about a team and they said, they need to pick a lane. And I'm like, maybe I've heard it for years and it just subconsciously came out of me, but we've done thumbnails on this, pick a lane, because the Giants seem to just love driving down that middle lane, having people on the left, pass them, fly by them, while they're passing people on the right, and they're thinking, hey, we're not so bad. Look, we just passed the Rockies and the White Sox, and we're cruising past the Cincinnati Reds and the Florida or the Miami Marlins and the A's and the Angels. We're not doing too bad. Oh, well, have you looked over a little closer to the right lane? Those guys are driving on 3 tires.
You have the right hat on today, not because Tucker went to the Cubs, but because that's the letter the Giants continue to be at. That's the lane they continue to be at. Not an A, it's not an F, it's a C. They're always.
Wait, can I put a little dash in it right here, like a minus?
Yeah, bingo. I mean, Adames is a nice pickup, but if that's all they're going to do, and if they're not going to get another lefty in that lineup, and if they're not going to get another frontline pitcher, then it's going to be probably another 4th or 3rd place finish. They need.
If they don't get Burnes, they're guaranteed 4th. They still could get Burnes and finish in 4th. Will Martinez says, don't know if anyone heard Posey on MLB Network Radio front office a few days ago, but it didn't sound like ownership was comfortable going at the price it would take to get Burnes. I could be wrong. Yeah, I mean, at this point, they boxed themselves. I did a video earlier today, guys. We'll be putting it out shortly, probably as soon as this live stream maybe ends. You'll have to check out that video. But in it, I will give you a little hint. I gave a little comparison between Max Fried and Corbin Burnes, and I would have went after Fried because Fried's a guy that has a lower ERA. He's had he's had 6 complete games in his career. Corbin Burnes has never had a complete game. And the other thing that concerns me, Corbin Burnes' K rate has gone from 12 something down to 8, and it's decreased every year the last 4 years. So that's a telling sign that if you're no longer missing bats, are you not missing bats because you're playing to contact to keep your pitch count down and go more innings? Or are you losing some of your stuff where people are making more contact because it's not as, good as stuff? I don't know.
I was a little surprised Ned kind of leaned toward Burnes over Fried. I'm more in the Fried camp, but not by much. It's not by much.
It's very close.
They're very close. But I just feel dominant lefties are just a little bit more value than dominant righties, because dominant lefties can really offset dominant left-handed hitters in the lineup, whereas righty versus righty is over the years just not been quite as much of an advantage as lefty versus lefty. But they're both great pitchers, and if the Giants don't get either one of them, they're going to be back to middle of the pack, back in that middle lane, getting those middle tier free agent pitchers.
My concern with Burnes is the price tag, because Fried was 8 years, 218. If you're going to give Fried or Burnes, you're going to have to give him now at least 7, maybe 8. And I think that's going to cost $250 or more, maybe. I think Burnes signs anywhere between a low of 240 to the high of 300. And I think it's going to be right around that 260, maybe even stretch 270 mark, because you got 5 teams involved. And we all know what happens, right? Oh, he said, she said, he said, she said, and then it goes back and forth. And all of a sudden, you know how those rumors, you ever done the little thing where it goes around a circle and you tell a little story and then the story is completely different? Well, in negotiations, when you got 4 or 5 teams involved and you get it down to 2 that really, really want them, the agent is using the 3 that he knows don't have a shot to push up the price for the 2 that really do. And then you leverage the 2 against each other, like the Mets and the Yankees for Soto. And that's why Soto ended up with 765. And that's why here at NorCal Sports Network, we told you very early on, it would be between a $700 and $800 million contract. While other networks, they said, no chance it hits the 7. That's because, when you've been around baseball a long time and you've been in sales a long time, you understand the gig. Both Los and I not only play the game, but we do sales for a living, and we know what negotiations are like. And if you're not in that sales world, you're not going to understand how things work. And I knew that thing was going over 700. I would have bet my mortgage on it, because you have to learn and look at the tea leaves. You got to read the tea leaves, everybody. Who's the number 1 agent in baseball?
Scott Boras.
Who had the number 1 richest contract in baseball prior to this Juan Soto?
Ohtani.
Does Scott Boras represent Ohtani?
Yep.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Oh, he doesn't?
No. That's why Boras
competitive-wise
was going to get – he's the number 1 agent. You think his ego's he's going to finish second? Juan Soto was the one player in this decade that could surpass 700 million. And Boras had him, and he leveraged it perfectly. He brought Boston into the deal. He got the Yankees and Mets involved. He even got Toronto, 3 teams in the American League East. And then he had the Dodgers involved just to scare a little bit Steve Cohen, because Steve Cohen knew if Juan Soto lands with the Dodgers, I have no shot of ever winning in the near future. So this is all how you got to negotiate. And now Kyle Tucker, as we've broached this subject, is a Chicago Cub. That makes the Giants 1 more down in the pecking order for a wild card spot, because now you've got Cincinnati, I believe, and the Cubs are the favorites in the National League Central. Pirates are up and coming. Cardinals are going, you ever see the stock price and you look at it and you see the arrow going up or down because it's potential when you look at the future? Well, the Cubs just landed one of the top 10 players in the game, maybe a top 5 player when healthy.
Good hitters part 2 for him, man.
Yeah. I could show you a stat somewhere that is, hold on here 1 second. Do I have, anyway, I was looking for something. Cubs just shot up. Reds are on the upswing. Brewers and Cardinals on the downswing. Pirates, I think, are a little bit on the upswing. I don't know if they're ready, but in the National League West, you've got the Dodgers still probably either maintaining or ascending. Padres, they're a little shaky. I don't know what they're going to do. They could end up dropping a little bit if they sell off. Diamondbacks, holding steady. Giants, have they improved, Los, from last year yet? Are they a better team right now?
Hard to say because they lost an ace and gained a shortstop. So from an everyday point of view, I'm a big believer in everyday players, having more say-so and winning you games than a guy that pitches every 5 or 6 days. So possibly, but it's not enough to move the needle. For sure, they're going to need to bank on, guys that didn't have good years last year to bounce back and have good years. But no, it's just Willy Adames is a good player, but he's not going to be a guy that is going to start packing the yard and putting people in the seats and translating to competing for a wild card spot. He needs more. He needs more. The team needs more.
Absolutely. I
had a discussion earlier today with some friends because I was mentioning like what we talked about Luis Arias is trading within the
if you want.
Is trading within the division just not done anymore? I know it's rare, but the discussion I had, they made it sound like there's no way the Padres will trade any player to the Giants. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if there's a player out there, let's just say Arias, let's just say Machado, and the Giants offer a prospect package better than any other team, would the Padres actually say, no, we'd rather go with this other team giving us less prospects than trade within division? I don't know. That's a disclaimer that, I don't know. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Do you think division trades are basically extinct nowadays?
I don't think they're extinct. I think they happen every couple of years. We've seen them here and there. We saw not Ian Happ, but J.A. Happ or whatever go from the Blue Jays to the Yankees a few years back. They happen, but I'm not so sure I would personally, if it helped my club, it made me better, I would go for it. I wouldn't worry about if it made somebody else better because I can't control what another team's going to do to make themselves better down the road. If it makes me a better team, I'm going to trade.
Yeah.
If the Dodgers came and said, oh, we'll trade you Mookie Betts for Bryce Eldridge and Logan Webb and, some other minor leaguer, I'm like, well, that makes me a really good team right now because I don't know. You have to think about it.
Well, I'd listen to that for sure.
Yeah.
What is the Tucker trade do domino effect for Clay Bellinger now?
Cody Bellinger, the Cubs can keep him, but I think they want to move off of him. They've been talking about moving him, and I think the Yankees are after him. I don't know why the Giants wouldn't be making a call. You need a first baseman. You can move him to the outfield. You need a left-handed bat to go in between. You got Ramos, Chapman, and Adames, all three sluggers from the right side that strike out a ton.
Yeah.
You've got to put somebody in between there because, look, if you got, I don't know how the Giants are going to put their order. I'm assuming that Adames looks like, to me, the natural third place hitter. He's a guy that drives in more runs. He drove in 112 last year. I think that you put him, I don't know who you put fourth, but if you have, let's say you have Chapman in the fifth, 5-hole again, and you go with Adames, Ramos, Chapman. Look, that's a feast or famine situation because you could get the 3-run homer there from one of those guys if you got men on base, but you can also get a strikeout, a weak pop-up, and another strikeout. You could have first and second, 2 out or no out and not score because all 3 of them do strike out a lot. So you got to put a lefty in there in between that changes things up, especially if you get late in the game and you want to bring in a reliever. You got that 3-batter rule. And if you got 3 righties in a row, it's pretty easy. I'm going to bring in a tough righty to face these guys.
Is Profar of the Padres, is he a free agent?
Jurickson Profar is a free agent. I looked at his numbers yesterday. He's had really 2 good years, and they've both been with the Padres. Most of his production's been pretty poor. Again, Los, last year, great year. What kind of year was he entering in a contract year? So I'm a little hesitant to see these guys that come up and have this great year all of a sudden when they know that their career's on the line. And it's like, I'm going to go out and just do whatever I can to have a great year. Because let me see. I saw earlier comment in here from Will Martinez. Oh, here it is. Giants play in the 4th biggest market in a prestigious franchise, but they act like a mid-market team.
Spot on.
Very, very much so, Will. It is so frustrating. I mean, I think the Cubs are going to go after Tucker hard and try and sign him to a 10, 12-year deal.
I'm surprised that they didn't lock him up before they pulled the trade, but maybe there's still ongoing negotiations to do that. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, Profar is a guy that I just want the Giants to have a backup plan. They've had a history kind of when they are targeting somebody and then it doesn't happen, they almost like sulk. They're almost like depressed and for a few days and weeks, and then they don't have a backup plan, for somebody to swoop, get swooped up on somebody else that they like. So, Profar is definitely not near the Bellinger and Tucker level, but they got to get a lefty in that lineup. I mean, if they're going to be even a little bit competitive, they've got to get a lefty that has some pop and preferably a higher batting average to balance out the righties that you had mentioned that are kind of all power. Well, Ramos, I think, is over a 250 hitter, but the other 2 guys remains to be seen.
Yeah. They definitely need more. I don't know what they're going to do. Go check out the video as it comes out later today on Corbin Burnes. Giants, if they don't land Burnes, are going to have to pivot quickly to a Walker Buehler and maybe a Jack Flaherty. Pitching has been premium this year, and it's moved up. Maybe are you better off with a Burnes or are you better off with a Flaherty and Buehler combined if you get them on shorter terms?
Good question.
Because you need pitching depth. Burnes is going to cost you $30+ million a year. I think you could probably get Flaherty and Buehler probably going to cost you closer to 40, 45 a year, but shorter term. Probably a 1 to 2 year deal for Buehler. I think you can get Flaherty on a 4-year, probably $25 million a year, $100 million contract, and Burnes is going to cost you $150 more minimum. And Buehler's, you could probably get Buehler on a 1-year deal with an opt-out type, a 2-year deal with an opt-out for him, something along those lines. Will Martinez, ownership should get ripped and called out if Burnes doesn't sign with the Giants because he wants to play here, and he comes down to whether or not ownership wants to spend to compete. Absolutely, Will. I'm almost positive he wants to play here. Think about this. He grew up in Bakersfield. He went to college at St. Mary's. His family's here. It's California. If you're a California kid, you generally like to stay in California. You don't want to get out of California until you've passed 40 or 50 because you kind of wise up and realize the thing's a sinkhole.
Absolutely.
But yes, and he does have a home in Scottsdale, correct, as do many ball players.
Smart.
And many Giants players do. So Bora says, and Bora may join us Adames versus lefties, 191, 307, 316, and versus right, 271, 341, 511. Is that something just last year, Bora, or is that career splits? Let me know, Bora, in the comments, or if he joins us.
I did see that weird split. That's kind of goofy. I don't know if that's like a pattern for his career, but last year he did not hit lefties very well. That doesn't make much sense. That's a pretty wide disparity too, 191 to 271. That's 80 points difference. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out.
You know, the Burnes thing's interesting because wanted to play in LA Dodgers, chose Snell. What happens if Bora's asking for $300 million? I ain't signing Burnes for that. No, I wouldn't sign a pitcher for $300 million either. Look, it's just too risky. It's a shame. Hopefully Burnes does not make the mistake of wanting too much where he ends up taking a shorter 1 or 2 year deal like Snell did. Man, if I'm Burnes and I've got the club I want to go to and it's around 7-8 years, 230, 240 in there, I'm am I going to hold out for another 20 million over 8 years? I don't know.
What would Gibson and Koufax be worth right now?
50 million plus a year.
Throwing 8 to 9 innings every start, hardly being injured. On the back of their card every year, it's the same thing. None of this, this is my contract year. I think I'll hit or pitch well, and let me get the money. I mean, it's such a con if you think about it, Dan. Like, if you look at these players nowadays, it's very rare. Even the best players, with a few exceptions, they just have their up and down years, and their good year is always their contract year. And God, it's such a con. But owners and GMs continue to pay and continue to be suckered by it because it's like, well, what else are you going to do? It's just, God, I feel sometimes for the older players that look at this money right now, knowing that how good, how dominant they were, and they got peanuts compared to what they get right now. I really do.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Bob Gibson, I saw the stat the other day. He had 30, what was it, like 30 complete games or something like that, or it was just crazy. And I put out on Twitter, he'd be worth over 50 million plus a year.
How about Mantle and Mays? Mays might be the first 10-year billion-dollar player. 10 years, $1 billion. $100 million a year.
I'll tell you what.
Say it. Give me that money, man. Oh, I love Willie. God.
Put him and Will Clark on the same team. Hey, man.
Oh, man, that's so true. Those two voices together.
Oh, God. You know, I would think, let's say Barry Bonds was a free agent and he was 26, 27, and he was signing, and forget the Roy controversy. Just assume that it was not a factor. You didn't know about it or whatever. And Soto got 15 and 765. I think Barry, at the same age, would have had to have got 900 plus. Not even comparable player.
Yeah.
I mean,
just there's no more 5-tool. Is there a 5-tool player in baseball right now?
5-tool player. 5-tool player in baseball. Wilmer Flores.
Is Mookie a 5-tool player?
Mookie, what? Let me think on this. Let me just check.
Mookie hits for average. He hits for power, not overwhelming power, but decent power. He's got a great glove.
All right, he's got a great arm. Here's the 5 tools, right, Los? Hitting
for average.
What are they? Running, fielding, throwing, and power.
Right.
Okay. So who is the best 5-tool player? Hitting, running, fielding, throwing, and power. Mookie kind of fits that. Mookie's there.
Acuna,
yeah, definitely when healthy, man, he's a 5-tool guy.
the
Tucker's right there. Tucker's pretty good.
Julio Rodriguez, if he can get his batting average up
Yeah.
a little bit. Julio's very talented. Hits for power, great glove, great arm. He's fast. The only thing, he's right now a 4-tool player because I think he's, more or less about a 250, 260 hitter. But if he gets up there into the 280s, 300s, he will be a 5-tool player. So there's maybe 3 of them. I mean, right off the top of my head. I
guess you'd have to put Shohei in there too. He doesn't play the field that much, but
yeah, you have to.
I'm trying to think of some of the best 5. Who do you think the best 5-tool players of all time?
Mays, Mantle when he was healthy. Because people forget before Mantle ripped up his knee, he could run. Man, he was fast. He had power from both sides. He hit for batting average. Man,
Ricky Henderson is he 5-tool?
Did he ever win a Gold Glove?
I think so, but he didn't have the greatest arm, but it was adequate.
Yeah, his arm, and even Barry's arm wasn't considered great. It was accurate, but it wasn't great. But the other 4 things he did were so dominant.
How about Vlad Guerrero, Senior? Cannon for an arm. And he could hit, and he had power, and he had speed. Of course, Bonds, Alec A-Rod.
Clemente's up there. He didn't hit.
Mantle.
Tremendous power.
Mantle and Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
Mays.
I mean, the point we're making is there were just more 5-tool players in the past than there are right now.
Aaron.
Hank Aaron is so underrated.
He really is. He's an underrated player.
I don't even know. Like, they have so many documentaries on baseball players. I don't know if Hank has ever had one. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't think of one off the top of my head. But if you look at Hank's stats, people just consider him the home run, king, along with Bonds, obviously, with the whole asterisk by it.
Right.
But look up what Hank hit batting average wise. Hank was not no 240, 250 hitter. I think he was a lifetime 297, 300 hitter. And a ton of RBIs. Just, God, like I said, I just feel bad for these players that had a lot more talent, a lot more drive, a lot more consistency, and a lot more love of the game. Love for the game. Because they sure as hell weren't compensated.
Here's an interesting thing. If we were to build, okay, now keep in mind we've got different things. We've got contact. We've got what else are we looking at? Contact, power, speed, glove, and arm. Let's build our ultimate 5 in today's game. Let's build our ultimate 5-tool player. Contact, you got to go with Arias.
Oh, for today's game.
Today's game. In the game today, we're building a Bora.
Whoa, look at that hair, man. Get a hat on, brother.
Good morning.
I may not have woken up 10 minutes ago.
Man.
All right, so check out. We're building a 5-tool player, the best 5-tool player in today's game with contact hitting, power, speed, glove, and arm. Okay, I got a couple right off the head on my head when I think of contact. I'm thinking Luis Arias.
Speed, it might be Ellie De La Cruz.
Ellie De La Cruz, yes.
Power is probably
arm.
Aaron
It's got to
Judge.
be O'Neal Cruz, maybe. Arm.
Power is going to be Judge or Ohtani.
I think it's Judge for power. He's got more.
Does he have more power than Ohtani? I guess he's hit more homers than him. So yeah, Judge gets the slight edge. Who's got
arm?
the best?
What do you think of O'Neal Cruz arm? The guy throws 105 from shortstop.
He's the shortstop of the Pirates.
Yeah,
Isn't he the center fielder now?
maybe. I think he's played a little bit out there. Yeah, but
What
I'm
about
just
just
talking
fielding
about
in general?
fielding. How about Bobby Witt
Okay.
Jr.? He's an amazing glove. Who's
What
got
about
a better
Matt Chapman?
glove? Chapman could be there. Chapman's. Speaking of Chapman, he played.
Who won the Gold Glove at third base for the American League? You know off the top of your head? Because I don't know. It just seems like shortstop and third base get more notoriety because it's a longer throw to first base, and I don't know. It seems like when you think of defense, you think of third base and shortstop. Like that Gold Glove is a little bit worth more than an outfield, a first base, or a second base position. Is it Bregman?
Mm-hmm.
Did Bregman won the third base in the American League?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I seeing?
I just looked it up.
Manny Machado has a great glove too.
Oh yeah, Bregman. There it is. I'm looking at the Gold Glove one. Yeah, Jimenez, he got traded from the Cleveland to Toronto. He won it for second base.
Oh, he's a great glove.
Yeah, wow. Oh wow. There was another. But getting back to this Kyle Tucker signing, guys, or trade, this makes the Cubs a stronger team. The Giants, when you see a move like this, again, we always bring something back to the Giants here at NorCal Sports Network. We're kind of the flagship here for the Giants when it comes to YouTube. What does this move do? Does this move for the Giants, does it motivate them to sign Burnes or pivot and say, we've got to get aggressive here because if we want to be a playoff team, the Cubs have gotten better. The Mets have gotten better. We've talked about the National League Central. The Brewers look like they're on a sell mode. You know, they just traded Devin Williams today to the Yankees.
Jeez.
You've also got, they've let Adames go. Looks like they're in a rebuild or some kind of change. The Cardinals stink. They're about ready to move off of Arenado. They're desperately trying to get rid of Arenado. Does Arenado land somewhere with a contender? Does Bregman leave Houston now? And it looks like he did. You know, they must be moving off of They must know Bregman's leaving because they just traded for Isaac Paredes, who's the third baseman. So Bregman's probably going to the Yankees. The Yankees are going to come out of this free agency smelling like a rose because they didn't get Soto, but they're going to end up with Fried, and they got Devin Williams now, and they're going to end up with possibly Bregman. They might end up with Pete Alonso. I mean, it's the move that the Yankees should make. Now,
I like the Yankees team more with Fried, possibly Bregman, and Devin Williams than with Soto. Absolutely. Those are three really good players for one. I guess he's a superstar, but he's not a 5-tool player because he doesn't give you much defense. Fried gives you dominant,
and he doesn't have speed.
Yeah, Fried gives you dominant pitching. Bregman is a Gold Glover, as we just saw, and a pretty good hitter, and he's a clutch hitter in the postseason. And Devin Williams is a shutdown closer. You've just made your team better. So Yankee fans that are all pissed off and putting videos out about Soto, yeah, be happy. Your team pivoted, adjusted, and did very well. Caveat, they get Bregman. But Fried and Devin Williams so far is pretty nice. Pitching is at a premium, at a plus for sure.
Ryan says, let's get William Contreras. You got Patrick Bailey. What would you do with? Would you make Contreras your DH? And then give him the days off when you're facing. Give Bailey the days off when facing left-handed pitching, and then Bailey only faces righties. What do you think? Is Contreras?
I don't think Milwaukee wants to move off of him. I mean, he still has 2 more years of arbitration, and he's only 26. So
I wonder what they're doing. Why they're well, maybe they think they needed more pitching. They did get Nestor Cortez, and they got some.
They got a second baseman.
They got a second baseman. So does that mean they're moving Terang over to third?
I think they're going to move Terang over to short, and then Ortiz is going to be the third baseman.
Ortiz is going to be the third baseman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting.
Casey but I mean,
Schmidt fit with a lot of teams
Tucker,
who needed the corner.
Yeah, with Kyle Tucker, I don't know what the Cubs are wanting to do, but they now have an outfield of Suzuki, Bellinger, and Tucker. That's probably the best outfield in baseball. I don't know if they're going to still be willing to trade Bellinger or Suzuki, but if I were the Giants, I'd be all over that because it's not. I don't think it would take too much to trade for Bellinger.
No,
Suzuki. It's not going to be as much as Tucker, and now that they have Tucker, they're probably going to be inclined to move off of one of those guys even more.
I think they want to move off of Bellinger more because of the uncertainty. He's got 2 years. He can opt out, but he can also choose to stay in for 5 minutes. It's so I think he's owed $27 million this year coming up, and then $25 million or something like that the following year, something close to that. I have to look it up. But if you got Bellinger, I would think the Cubs would take like a Casey Schmidt to play third and another young prospect because they don't want contract. They want to reduce payroll. So they don't want a player. They wouldn't even want Yaz back because that's $9 million. They wouldn't probably want, even if you gave them a $12 million player, like or $11 million, like Taylor Rogers. I think they would rather have, Tucker not only replaces Bellinger, but is better than Bellinger. Now you can move off of him, and you still got Pete Crow Armstrong they're high on to play center field. And then now you can have Armstrong in center, Tucker in left, and Suzuki in right, or vice versa. You could flip those guys. And if you got a Schmidt, and let's say they wanted pitching, would you trade Schmidt and Wisenhunt for maybe 2 years of Bellinger?
I'd do that, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? Bellinger would fit right into this team because he would start off at first base, and then once Eldridge gets called up, because I think it's going to be sometime this year, he can just move so smoothly to center field or one of the outfield positions.
Right.
He can take over right field with Yaz, or left field if Ramos moves to right.
If they get Bellinger and plays first base, it might cost you $20 on your bet, though, Bora. It might.
That's a good point. I would be willing to sacrifice the $20 for Cody.
There you go. There you go.
But it would be a pretty smooth transition because Cody Bellinger is a really good first baseman and he's a really good outfielder.
Yeah,
He's athletic. I mean, he doesn't strike out too much. He puts the bat on the
15%.
ball.
He
has a 15% strikeout percentage.
Yep.
He would fit this team pretty well because the Giants have a lot of guys who strike out a lot. Yaz strikes out a lot. Ramos strikes out a lot. Chapman strikes out a lot.
And Adames and
Now Bellinger is a perfect example of a player, like we said at the beginning of the show, how just because you do this year, do this that year, doesn't mean you're going to stay that way your whole career. You're always changing. You're always adapting. So Bellinger was a guy that struck out a lot in his early career, and he made adjustments. That's what we're saying, guys. Like, okay, like if this player, does this, that doesn't mean he's going to do that this year and the next year. Baseball is such a game of adjustments, like literally game to game. I mean, all three of us played. How many times did you guys change your batting stance, like depending on the kind of pitcher that you faced? If I was facing a breaking ball pitcher, I moved up on the box a little bit. I wanted to catch that curveball before it broke real nasty. So there's always adjustments and games within the game. So Bellinger is a guy, man, I would love Bellinger on this team because if Eldridge blows up in spring training and you got those two lefties mixed in with what we have right now, righties has, now we're talking about, for the first time in a long time, a nice Giants lineup.
Yeah, because right now your first base position is Lamont Wade. And I mean, I'm not going to say I like Lamont Wade, but Lamont Wade is serviceable. He's not Cody Bellinger. He had like 4 to 5 home runs, I think, last year. And he had, I don't even know the number off the top of my head, but he didn't have a good statistically. If you look at OPS plus, he had a decent season. But if you look at the hard numbers, the home runs, the RBIs, he did not have a great year. And I mean, you can look at the OPS plus and say he was an above average hitter, but at the same time, you got to look at where does he fit with this team? And if he's not driving in runs, if he's not hitting home runs, I mean, the rest of your team doesn't hit a lot of home runs. You haven't had a 30 home run hitter in a long time. And if your first baseman is hitting 6 home runs, that's not a sign for success. I mean, you can say he's like 15% better than league average or whatever his OPS plus was. But he's, at the end of the day, it's like he just doesn't get it done on this team. You need someone that can drive in runs, hit some home runs, and play good defense. And he doesn't necessarily do all those at a high level.
This is an interesting point here. Giants finished fourth, and ownership wants to reduce payroll. Not a good look at all. Then why don't you start and dump the millions you're giving Yaz? This is what's got me confused and concerned. If the Giants aren't going all in after going after Adames and you've paid Chapman, you've just forked out over $300 million over the next 6 years to solidify the left side of your infield with Chapman for 6 years and Adames for 7. If that's all you're going to do and not change anything else, but you're going to rely on your young pitching and your current crop of players that were mid at best. I mean, Ramos had an all-star year, but the rest of the guys, Jung-Hoo Lee shows some potential to be a pretty decent major league hitter, and he's a good center fielder. But look, I could replace Jung-Hoo Lee, I think, with a guy in my own system like a Matos. Maybe Lee's a little bit better in some ways, but for the money, is he that much better than Matos?
No.
And
the answer is no.
Yeah. So what are you doing, Giants? What is your plan? Because if you're going to go do Adames, you've just signaled you're not doing a rebuild. And I don't understand that. You're still picking the dang middle lane that we've talked about right now. You've got to go all in or tear it down, and they're not tearing it down, so it's too late. You've already chose your path with Chapman and Adames. You've paid out. Adames is the largest contract in Giants history, and Chapman is just third or fourth behind Buster. Buster was 167 million. Chapman's 151. I don't know of anybody in between those two that come to my mind right off the top of my head. So Chapman might be third. So you may be first and third in the history of your club, and you're still a crappy team. I say crappy. To me, crappy is 500. It's average, but it's, if you're a fourth place, as somebody mentioned, Will Martinez, fourth largest market, and that's where you're gunning for, is that. Look at the Yankees, what they're doing. Look, is like they've decided, you know what? We're not getting Soto, but they're getting aggressive. They made two big moves. Fried, and now they've picked up Devin Williams to be their closer, and they're probably in on Bellinger and Bregman.
Yeah, the Giants are self-promoting this already as the best left side of the diamond in baseball.
Kind of like the best pitching staff in baseball.
Didn't they say that last year?
Yeah.
Oh, we have the best rotation in baseball, and that was a joke. And now I'm sure you guys have heard it. Oh, the Giants now have the best left side of the diamond in baseball. No, they don't. I'm sure I could off the top of my head. Bobby Witt by himself is better than Chapman and Adames. I don't know who the hell's playing third base for the Royals. I think it's that guy that I should know.
Is it Miguel Garcia?
Yeah. He steals bases. I should know. I had him on my fantasy team. But yeah, the Giants like to do these things and then promote it oh, we're the best of this and best of that. And it's yeah, slow your roll, man.
I think they're putting a lot of emphasis on Harrison and Birdsong and possibly Roop to come through for them. And I like especially Birdsong, and I love Roop stuff. And Harrison, he just needs to figure it out, and they need to find a pitching coach that finds what he does well and enhance it rather than trying to change him, because he was pretty dominant in AAA, and they kind of messed with some of his pitches and altered it, and he was not as effective. So if they go off and rely on those three guys and they say, okay, and the other mistake they're making, doggone it, if you're going to put Jordan Hicks as a starter and you think he's a starter, trade him. If you're not going to put him in the bullpen, you're totally misusing him as a starting pitcher. He proved to you last year he is not a full season starter. And if you use him for half the season and you wear his arm out, what good is that? Makes zero sense to me. Let me show you this. Go ahead, Bora.
It doesn't make any sense. And if I've been on this train for a long time, I don't particularly love Kyle Harrison's stuff. I don't like his stuff at all. Even nothing really excites me. Nothing impresses me. We heard it throughout the minor leagues. He was the number one left-handed prospect last year. Oh, this plus fastball, this plus curveball, all this stuff. He's a 91 mile an hour fastball that he can maybe get up to 93. The Giants messed with his curveball, so now it's like a sweeper slurve that just isn't it. His changeup is non-existent. I mean, he's a 3-pitch pitcher, and if he doesn't locate, he's just throwing meat. The one thing he does is he hides the ball and he gets great extension with his fastball. But I mean, is that the main thing that you want out of your number one pitching prospect for the past 3-4 years? I don't think so. If I were the Giants, I'd be capitalizing on his trade value. I'd be looking to trade him to Toronto, maybe. I would have been trying to trade him to Houston to see if you could get if you could get him for Tucker and another piece. But I would, if I'm the Giants, I need to make some trades to really push myself over the top. And especially if I'm going with Jordan Hicks. Right now you kind of have a 7-man rotation. I'm just going to assume they sign Burnes, because that's kind of where it's all heading. You have Burnes and Webb as your front two. Then you have Robbie Ray as your 3. Then you have Kyle Harrison, Hayden Birdsong, Landon Roop, Tristan Beck, Jordan Hicks, Carson Wisenhunt. Maybe you have a bunch of mid guys in that 4 through 7 role.
Yeah, those are guys.
And I mean,
those are arms.
do need.
Those are arms.
They're just arms, and you do need arms because arms get injured. But I mean, I just don't really see it with Kyle Harrison. I don't see the number 1 pitching prospect in him. He doesn't excite me, and I mean, he has a pretty good amount of trade value. He's young. He's a left-handed starter that's valuable in this league. I would be looking to trade him, and I would be looking to trade him fast because I think after this year, if I'm right, I may be completely wrong, but I don't think he has a great year, and I think after this year, his trade value kind of diminishes.
Yeah. Let me show you something real quick. This trade, guys, on the what we oops, did that show up? Oh, yeah, here it is. Here's the deal. We talked about going after Bellinger. Bellinger is got a -7 surplus value because of his contract. So if you gave him Casey Schmidt, and I instead of Wisenhunt, I threw in Lamont Wade because they might be able to service Wade as a backup first baseman outfielder, kind of a lower version of Cody Bellinger, especially when it comes to pay. I mean, $3.5 million, something like that for Wade versus $27 million. So the Cubs are saving a ton of money, and they're getting a position of need in Schmidt. They don't have a true third baseman, and I don't think people realize the importance of a lockdown defender. And if you watch Casey Schmidt's highlights, unbelievable glove, and his bat is getting better and better. He did hit 252 last year, guys. He only had 107 at bats, but you go try hitting 252 when you are getting bats once a week. Hitting a baseball is one of the hardest things to do, and it's like the need for timing is so critical. So,
gentlemen, I have to cut out here. Carry on.
We're going to end this in 6 minutes anyway. So we're going to go an hour and 15 minutes and end it. But Los, thanks for joining.
Yeah, I was also going to say as my exiting point that, and I brought this up before, remember, sometimes it's those under the radar pitchers like Seth Lugo. I'm going to keep bringing him up, that nobody thought much about last year. So he outpitched the big name that got the big deals last year. Quite frankly, he did. So does that mean it's going to happen every year? No, but if the Giants don't get Burnes, maybe we should kind of like refocus and look at which of those middle tier pitchers that are not going to get the monster contracts could be a possible sleeper. I like Flaherty a lot. He might be a late bloomer, and he pitched well in the postseason for the Dodgers. He's got A stuff. So he might be a guy that if they don't get Burnes might be a decent consolation prize. But carry on, gentlemen. Do what you got to do.
Yeah. Who was the deal for? Thanks, Los. We will see you on the next show. Have a great afternoon. What was Bora? Who was the deal? It was Paredes, and it was Hayden Wisniewski, and who was the third player in that deal from the Cubs?
Look it up right now.
I want to look at this trade analyzer and see how it panned out.
Cam Smith.
Okay. Cam Smith. Let's see. Here we go. All right. Let's see how this trade machine actually. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it has, you can see where hold on, put this up here. Okay, so this is the deal that went down. It's opposite because they've already been moved. So you can see the Astros, Cubs giving Tucker away for 3 players, Paredes, Wisniewski, and Cam Smith. So 52 went to the Cubs. I'm just curious what what do you think it would have taken? Let's just play with that and see what it would have done for the Giants to come up with 52. Just for kicks.
I think it would have taken Harrison.
Let's play with it.
I'm gonna say Harrison, Matos, and a Wade, maybe. What is that?
What did they got? A third baseman. Let's see. Hayden Wisniewski is a right-handed pitcher. He's 27. Okay, so let me do this. We've got. Hold on here. I messed something up. Well, once we do this, we'll close the show. I'm just curious to see. Oh, I see. I got it on the wrong page here. Okay, so we've got. I wonder if Cubs are done. I don't think the Cubs are done. I think they're going to keep moving guys.
Well, to me, this move doesn't necessarily make sense for the Cubs just because Kyle Tucker's a free agent next year. So unless they're going to try to sign him early and lock him up long term, I don't really get moving Paredes, Wisniewski, and Cam Smith for him because all those guys are decently good. Paredes, I just saw a graphic. He's a dead pull hitter. And there was a graphic of all his balls hit this past year, how they were like where they landed, and a lot of them would have been home runs in Minute Maid Park. So I think he's going to have a great year. I do think this kind of sets the table for Bregman leaving the Astros. I think that's that's kind of obvious. I don't know that the Astros would trade for Paredes, who's a decent third baseman with the intention of signing Bregman, so that doesn't really make sense. But I mean that's a pretty big package for Kyle Tucker, and Kyle Tucker is great. I love Kyle Tucker. He's probably one of the top 10 players in baseball. But you're only going to have him for a year. And I guess if the Cubs keep Bellinger and keep Suzuki, I guess they're kind of thinking this is their year, and they're kind of going all in. I can see them trying to go for the division. I think it's probably going to be them and the Reds this year.
Yep, that's what I think too.
The Pirates are probably a year or two away. I guess they're just going for it, and I mean, kudos to them. They're just going to go for it. They're going to see what they can do, and they're probably going to hope to re-sign Kyle Tucker. But that's a big package. And
so was Cam Smith was an outfielder, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Not sure if this works for the Giants. It's close. They got a little bit more. They got 51 out of this package. They got, because Schmidt's value is much lower than Paredes. Paredes was a 28, but their pitching was Harrison's the big guy in this deal. So if you went with a Fitzgerald, who's much higher, or if you went with a higher outfielder, but it seems
would you have done that?
This deal right here?
Yeah.
Yes. I probably would.
I would do that in a heartbeat.
If I had Burnes in house. If I don't get Burnes, I'm not.
I would do that anyway, because I think that, if anything, boosts Burnes' opportunity to come here. Because I mean, now you're kind of seeing you're making moves. Your team's better, but I mean, you just saw there, Kyle Harrison is a 31 trade value. I would pounce on that. Just if teams view him as highly as this trade analyzer values him, and I doubt that this trade analyzer is I know for a fact this isn't the end all be all.
Right.
This is just it's a system of how one analytics metric, I think, views him. Individual teams have individual needs and they have different needs, so they might view other prospects higher. But I mean that Kyle Harrison is valuable. He's young. He's a left-handed starting pitcher. You've said it. I've said it. The Giants have messed with his mechanics. He used to be throwing 94 to 96. Now he's throwing 90 to 93. That's a little concerning to me. I don't know if he just had his arm just like went out last year or what happened, but if he's like sitting 90, 91, 92 this year,
he's meatballs.
That's just straight down the middle, and he doesn't develop another pitch like a two-seam or sinker.
Right.
That's kind of a recipe for disaster. Because if you're a three-pitch pitcher who throws four-seam fastballs at 92 down the middle, and your slurve sweeper just isn't really effective, and your changeup is all over the place, you're not gonna have a great year. We can put it at that.
Right. Michi says I'm delusional on Schmidt. He and Harrison, great trade bait. Well, as Philip says, Michi, you don't think Casey Schmidt can put up similar numbers at Chapman given the opportunity? I don't think you've really watched Michi. Let me ask you this, Michi. I'd love to hear your comments. Have you seen Casey Schmidt play third base consistently down in the minors in AAA? Did you get a chance to watch him? Or are you only seeing him play occasionally as a utility guy for the Giants? Because if you haven't seen him play consistently, then I don't think you really understand the game that much, because he is just read his scouting report when the Giants drafted him. They compared him to Matt Chapman in the field, and he won a Gold Glove in the minors. He got a chance to play third base the last week of the season when Chapman was on paternity leave. He looked like a Gold Glove. He was amazing. He hit better than Chapman. Yes, he didn't have nearly as many at bats. He struck out less than Chapman last year. He's as good of a fielder. You know, we see Chapman, and Chapman is a great defensive player. Don't get me wrong, but he's got the reputation. Casey hasn't had a chance to develop his reputation in the major leagues because they've never given him a shot to play third base. They brought him up as a rookie in 23, and what did they do? They started playing him at shortstop for Crawford. And then the next year, they signed Chapman during spring training. He just hasn't had an opportunity to play. And this is the mistake I think that San Francisco Giants are making with their youth. They haven't given Matos a chance. They haven't given Schmidt a chance. They never gave Ramos a chance. Right here, NorCal Sports Network, me and the crew, we're all saying, give Ramos a chance because he's got the tools. He just needs the opportunity. What happens? He get the opportunity, and he proved himself. And you could see it in his game. Baseball's not a game where you play once a week. It's just not. I don't know if any of you guys have ever played the game, in your high school years and college years, but try going up there and it looks pretty easy on TV when the ball's coming down the middle and you think, how did that guy miss that? Well, you have literally that much time to make a decision on your swing. As soon as the ball is released, that's how much time you have. Because you don't know, you got to make a decision. That's why you see guys, because they're thinking, I'm swinging at this pitch no matter what, and the ball's 3 feet off the plate, and they look like, a buffoon. It's like, how did you swing at that? Because they committed. You have to commit. And baseball's, to me, what Barry Bonds did with the baseball, steroids or not, is almost inhuman. Just unbelievable. You still have to hit the ball to see it. And I mean, go watch that duel against Greg Gagne. Nothing Gagne. But heat. What was it?
Eric Gagne.
Yeah, Eric. Why did I say Greg Gagne? Eric, thank you. Eric Gagne, the Dodgers. He ends up hitting a home run off of him, but the earlier pitch, he pulled it so far to right field. It was in the water, but it was 75 feet foul. To get around that fast is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Okay, Michi says he's seen enough of him. He hopes he's wrong. Yeah. All right. I don't know if you watched him, like you said, if you saw enough of him I asked you if you saw him in the minors, because watching him play part-time in the majors is not enough. Just go Google his highlights. Just look at him. All right, guys. We got any more to say, Bora? I'm all done. Wrapped up. All right. We are out of here, guys. Join us tonight, 7:45. We'll be back live. We'll be talking some baseball. Hopefully Corbin Burnes is a Giant by 7:45 tonight. If it happens sooner, keep your notification bells on. We'll bring it to you live immediately, as we brought this news to you about Kyle Tucker today. Go check out the video on NorCal Sports Network on Corbin Burnes. That will be being released here very shortly. So we will see you guys tonight. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your Friday, everybody.